All right, we are going to get started with our meeting tonight. It is 6:32, and I'm going to call to order the West Lafayette Community School Corporation regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees for Monday, December the 12th at 6:30 p.m. Thank you all for being here tonight. Before we get started, I'll just point out to you that our seating arrangement looks just a little bit different than it has. We like each other, so we're trying to get a little bit closer. But really, it's about communication so that we can try and hear each other. This is a big room, and it can be hard to hear. Also, please notice that anyone choosing to address the board, we've set you up a station down here, so you can come and be seated and use the microphone to do that. And to our administrators who are giving presentations tonight to students, that microphone comes off of that stand, so you can pull it off and use it to do that presentation. Okay, you don't have to hunch over unless you want to. We'll go ahead and get started with item 1, approval of the agenda for the December 12th meeting. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mrs. Austin.
Second.
Second by Mr. Schott. Are there any changes to the agenda? Anything to add? Okay, all those in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please indicate by a raise of hand. That motion carries 7-0, Mrs. Julian. All right, moving on to approval of the minutes from the November 14th, 2022 regular meeting of the Board of the School Trustees. Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Dr. Springer. Second by Mr. Karpik. Any changes, anyone noticed on that? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving last month's meeting minutes, please indicate by raise of hand. That carries 7-0, Mrs. Julian. Unfinished business, we have none. We're going to move on to academic achievement and special recognitions with student recognitions from the intermediate school. And I assume Mrs. Saros. I think so.
I have some great students here that are representing our students and our programs in our school. And I do want to let you know that we have 3 opportunities this year from our school to present for our students. The first one, we focused on our athletic group. We are now focusing on some of our academic areas. And our last one, we will focus on some of our arts. So I'm going to have you come up one at a time as I say your name and start introducing you if you could come forward. Sharenya Carr. Sharenya is a 5th grader in Mrs. Brown's room. She was the Willis winner last year for Spelling Bee and then placed 3rd in the regionals. I'm going to turn things over to her now.
The Spelling Bee began in 1925 and is the longest-running educational program in the country. Millions of students start studying for the Spelling Bee's 4,000-word list in preparation for the competition.
Let's give her a hand. Thank you. If anyone needs a spelling word corrected, she's the lady to talk to tonight. Tobias Bell is going to represent our German club, and he is in Mrs. Anderson's 6th grade. The German club started as a partnership between our school and Purdue. It was created for 6th grade students. Tobias, tell us one thing that you know in German, and I think someone in the audience is going to be listening carefully. It's our German teacher from the high school. Turn and look at this audience.
Mein Name ist Tobias. German Club is a quick and fun way to learn German through games and verbal interactions. The German Club started in the 21-22 school year and continues each semester now.
Thank you, Tobias. Chloe Zhang, please come up. Chloe's a 4th grader in Mrs. Price's room and a Spell Bowl representative. Chloe is a first-year Spell Bowl team member and one of our perfect spellers from this year's Spell Bowl. I'm going to turn this over to you.
Students are given a list of 750 spelling words to practice early. Some start practicing as early as the summer. Students work together to learn how to accurately spell 50 words per meeting. Many schools in Indiana compete. Willis earned 52 out of 56 this year, placing first in our regional competition and eighth in our state.
Thank you. Representing our Math Bowl team, Melody Fay from Mrs. Stan's classroom in 5th grade. Melody was on last year's Math Bowl team and just got news that she made this year's Math Bowl team as well and will be competing later this year.
Last year, our team placed first in the regional competition and tied for first in the state. Math Bowl allows students to work as a team collaboratively, learn new skills in mathematics, and find new friends from our school.
Our Math Counts representative is Arjun Rahman from Mr. Harmon's 6th grade class. Arjun is on the Math Counts team this year, which will be competing in the second semester. Arjun has also had the top score in the state for the Noetic math competition, leading our team to place 6th in the country. Excellent.
Math Counts is a quick and innovative way to learn advanced math topics, which starts in 6th grade. This is a nationwide competition where students go through a series of tests to advance through the levels. The team has been working since September and is preparing for their chapter competition on February 11th.
Thank you. Representing Lego Robotics, Jack Austin from Mrs. Rodriguez's 6th grade classroom. This is Jack's first year on Lego Robotics, but we have had Lego Robotics at Happy Hollow and West Lafayette Intermediate School since 2004.
Lego Robotics is a club where a real-world problem is researched. Students work together to engineer a robot and present their knowledge to judges. This year, 4 out of 9 teams went to state to compete against 48 teams.
Thank you, Jack. Representing Chess Club, Augie Chang from Mrs. Fernandez's 4th grade classroom. Augie is new to our school this year and is a first-year member of the Chess Club and has earned a medal for his 3 consecutive wins.
Chess Club meets weekly on Fridays. When there, students in grades 4 through 6 learn tactics and strategies of playing chess. They also play tournaments on Saturdays.
Peace Ayano, representing our Willis Review. Peace is on the Willis Review this year as a writer.
Willis Review is an after-school program where students are creating a digital newspaper through articles, comics, and illustrations. The Willis Review is published 9 times per year and sent to all parents and students through email.
Thank you. I have one more student that I don't think is here tonight. Cynthia Chu, I don't think is in the audience anywhere. I do want to just acknowledge her for Battle of the Books as a representative. Cynthia and her team of 5 students won last year's Battle of the Books school competition against over 20 teams. They then competed at the regional level against 5 schools and earned first place. This year, Cynthia is back on Battle of the Books and ready to compete again. Battle of the Books is a competition that is made up of groups who read a given list of books to answer questions in a school battle. There are 40 questions where students must share the book title and 40 questions that are open-ended. So I want to recognize Cynthia Chu also, even though she's not here this evening. Thank you all. Can I have all the students back up here for a picture, please?
I should have introduced, that was our principal, Mrs. Margaret Pisaros, and also assistant, Mrs. Stephanie Qualio. We do have another recognition that is not on our agenda tonight. This is the last meeting for two of our retiring school board members, Alan Karpick and Karen Springer. And there are a lot of words that we could say, and we probably have said over the past several weeks to recognize and honor them. But we do have an audience member who would like to come up and speak, a couple of audience members to honor them here this evening. And then we also have a small token of appreciation. And Mayor Dennis, that microphone is definitely too low for you.
Luckily, we're used to sitting in a table.
Do I get a shout or does it come out? Or?
You could, I don't. Who knows? Yeah, there you go.
I can do my lounge act, can I? My name is John Dennis, and I'm the mayor of the city of West Lafayette. And with me is Erin Easter. She is the director of development for the city of West Lafayette. And one thing that we oftentimes don't overappreciate, we appreciate, but we don't appreciate it enough, is how much a school impacts the character, the development, and the atmosphere and environment of a city. You know, the city of West Lafayette has always had a reputation of being a subset of the city of Lafayette. But that has changed dynamically over the past 15 to 20 years. And a lot of that has to do with where I am right now in the West Lafayette Community School Corporation building. And the things that we have achieved as a city and the things that our school corporation has achieved as a school corporation is nothing short of phenomenal. When you look at all the lists of, you know, we as cities get graded too. When you look at all the lists of what makes for a quality community, education is usually at the top. It's at least, you know, between that and public safety, it's 1 and 2. And the city of West Lafayette consistently is ranked in the top 10, generally in the top 5, and for a few years in the top 2 as some of the best places to live in the United States of America. And that doesn't happen because of a single leadership principle. That happens because of a cooperation between government, between its citizens, and with its schools. And the school corporation here is one of the best in the country. Now, not to put a skid mark on that, but I'm a product of that school system. Alan, yeah, I was with you, so what you say, I can say, okay? There you go. But it's true. It's true. It's such an honor to have that on my been there, done that resume. But what's more important is that it really does make people aware of how valuable a good education is, not just for the time that you're actually participating in school, but for afterwards, after life. It teaches you all kinds of things. West Lafayette is blessed to have one of the most diverse populations of any city of its size in the country. That is a learning tool that cannot be reproduced in a classroom. It has to be done by the people that are here, the board, the teachers, the parents, and the students. And in West Lafayette, we do an absolutely amazing job. To all of you, and to the parents, and to the students, thank you all so very much. But tonight, there's going to be a change. Tonight, we have a couple school board members who are leaving. And as mayor, and with Erin Easter at my side, we want to thank you, Alan and Karen, for your years of service. You have made a difference. You have made this a better place. You have made this a better school corporation, and in doing that, you have made this a better city. And as the mayor of this city, I want to thank you deeply from the bottom of my heart, the top of my soul. Thank you for all that you have done. And we have a little tokens of our appreciation. Would you like to say anything, Erin? I guess I covered it all. That's a good sign. I said it all. So thank you so much, and we'd like to give you a couple presents.
I should know by now to never try and follow Mayor Dennis, but here we are again. It also was important from the board and the central office staff to recognize Alan and Karen's gift of time to our schools, perseverance, and longevity. We sat down and did the math, and it's just a few years that you've served. So we felt like the most fitting tribute for a gift of time is a clock. And so this is, I should have unwrapped these in advance. I'm terribly sorry. This is in honor of Dr. Karen Springer for serving on the West Lafayette Community School Corporation Board of Trustees from 1996 to 2004, and then again from 2006 to 2022. Thank you very much, Dr. Springer, for all that you've done for our students and for all of us. And similarly to Mr. Alan Karpick for serving on the West Lafayette Community School Corporation Board of Trustees from 2006 until 2022. Thank you, Alan. And so moving on off of our, now they still aren't out of a job. They still got to do the meeting here tonight. We'll move on to that, but we'll take a brief pause. If any of our families with children would like to leave, you are welcome to do so. You're welcome to stay, but it's okay if you go. All right, so we will go ahead and move on to communication from the audience on current agenda items, and we do not have anyone signed up for that this evening. And then on to new business. Item 3, a new school board policy, second reading of 2. Dr. Greiner.
Thank you. Given the questions we've received recently related to policy 2432 and the fact that the law remains in flux, it's my recommendation to the board that you table this policy. Adopting the policy is not required. Whether the policy is in place or not, we must follow Indiana code, but it's not necessary for us to adopt the policy at this time. So it's my recommendation that the board make a motion to table the policy and then vote on that item.
Can I get a motion to table? Moved by Mr. Marley, second by Mr. Schott. Questions, comments? Go ahead. Go ahead. Maybe Austin would like to third. Just to be clear, this is not any attempt to avoid the law. The law still applies to our work as a school board and as a school corporation, but this is a move to table the policy connected to it. So, okay. Any other questions? Okay. Hearing none, let all those in favor of tabling this new school board policy second reading tonight, please indicate by show of hands. That motion carries 7-0, Mrs. Julian. Moving on to item 4, property insurance renewal, Mrs. Kronk.
So I've met recently with our Henriette Group insurance agent to discuss our upcoming insurance renewal for liability, workers' compensation, cyber insurance. Very exciting stuff, let me tell you. Our current provider, Great American, through the Astra program, provided a quote in line with the market at a 15% increase from our 22 rate. Rates have seen a general increase this year due to the large increase in property values statewide and an increase in liability for certain programs that we cover. The total for liability insurance for 2023 will be $182,659. We are also recommending renewing our workers' compensation through Great American Astra Program Accident Fund at an annual rate of $50,977, which is a 26% increase from 2022. That might seem like it's a little high, but it's mainly due to some of our employee groups changing classifications within our rate. And that rate is actually still lower than the amount paid in 2019 and 2021, as we are fortunate to have a low experience modification rating, which is driven by our claims history. And as long as that modification rating remains low, premiums should not increase at a high rate in the future. And our cyber liability insurance, the market is currently extremely volatile. Our current carrier will no longer be offering coverage to schools, so we did have to go out for quotes for that cyber insurance. Henriette received 4 different quotes with different rates, requirements, and deductibles. The best quote with the lowest rate and deductible in which we meet the requirements for coverage is offered by Tokyo Marine with a $20,326 annual premium, which is about twice what we paid this current year, but that is what the market is seeing right now. So please approve the recommendation to renew our liability and workers' compensation insurance through Great American Astra and to purchase cyber liability insurance through Tokyo Marine. A summary of coverage has been included in your board packets.
Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mr. Marley, second by Mr. Karpik. Questions for Mrs. Kronk about insurance? Any?
Cyber liability, Henrietta's.
Yes, so they're basically our broker. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving the property insurance renewal, please indicate with a raise of hands. That motion carries 7-0. Mrs. Julian.
Thank you.
Moving on to survey results, and Mrs. Roth, this is information to the board.
This is information only, and this is information that has previously been shared with the board, so we wanted to make the public aware of that as well. Just so everyone is aware, after we share tonight, we will share the same information out in the newsletter. And first of all, thank you to all of the families that did participate in the District Priorities Family and Community Feedback. And I say community because we did share the link via social media as well through Skyward to families. So in theory, anyone with that link could have responded. So we're going to hope the technology works with me here. Maybe, do I need to be closer or that way?
Yep.
Okay, so we have an overview and we had 223 total responses. And you can see the 223 total responses represented across the district. We represented from kindergarten through graduated students, and you can see the number of responses in each of those categories. Keep in mind that one person could have represented a variety of grade levels, a variety of schools in this. If I had a kindergartner, a 6th grader, a 7th grader, and a graduated student, I could be represented in each of these categories. So that was encouraging because we did feel like we got a good variety of responses. If you could move to the next one. Thank you. So the priority area that was one question was about was academics. We had 74 comments on academics. And the comments were that open-ended section where responses were, where community could give responses. And you will see that when you total up those who ranked this area as essential or very important, it came to a total of 85.7% of those responding ranked this area as an essential or very important area. I will remind you, it was not a forced choice ranking. So you could have ranked 2 or 3 areas as essential or very important. We were not looking to force anyone to make choices. We just wanted to kind of gauge the feedback and understand where the priorities are for the community. You can see overall summary of the topic areas, the curriculum audit. The community viewed that that can help gain some understanding of opportunities and supports. There's also interest in allowing for skipping of courses. It came up specifically in the area of math. And then finally, part of this priority area mentioned technology. The community was pretty clear. We appreciate technology, but we view the teacher as the primary source of instruction, and that quality instruction is, technology is secondary. It serves as a tool for instruction for that quality teacher. So the next area is that whole child area. And you can see that there were 81.6% of those responding viewed this as essential or very important. This included mental health and social emotional well-being. People overall said that these were critical areas. There's a lot of concern post-COVID for ensuring that those areas are supported. The awareness of mental health issues and resources, this was not only for the schools, but for parents and the community, was seen as something that was important, as well as for teachers and staff in the school to understand the resources we offer, but also the resources offered in the community at large. And then finally, the efforts in DEI, and also looking to continue that and looking at DEI not only as race, but also as in diversity through economic status or disability status. The next one was facilities. This was, you can see, one of the lower ones. It was 43% as essential or very important. And people are interested for decisions to be made regarding Happy Hollow. And then we also, I think that the response was overwhelmingly, we appreciate the updated school spaces. They do help with student learning and they do help with attracting teachers, but the 10-year plan will be important to not only maintain those spaces, but to decide on how to move forward with Happy Hollow. Finances, 74% of the respondents said this was an essential or a very important area. The community at large recognizes that the referendum is key. And that helps recruit high quality staff and maintain programming. And then also that financial transparency and accountability is important to the community. Communication, you can see 65.1% ranked that as very important or essential. And then this was one area where some people said communication is more than adequate, and we appreciate it, and there are lots of ways to get information. And some people said, actually, I would appreciate more ways to get information. So there was kind of a divide here. There was a trend that communication is important, but some people said, doing a great job. Other people said, oh, you know, maybe more. And then celebrating and recognizing students and staff is important to not only for recruiting and maintaining and building up those students, but also something that's important to the community as a whole, a community builder of sorts. So you can see I've put these in order from what was ranked the highest priority to the lowest priority. And that's just a brief summary of that. Any questions?
I realize that you have worked, actually already worked on some of the areas like the curriculum auditing and stuff. So
Yeah.
I wonder at what point and the community will get an update on how we respond to the suggestions.
I think as we move forward in some, as Dr. Yen has pointed out, we have already started working on some of these areas. And as we move forward and see some progress and work with staff and our administrative team, provide updates regularly.
Thank you.
I'd also like to do an end of the year kind of wrap up on where we stand. I think everyone recognizes these are priorities that are short range and long range. Some of them are quick and easy, and some of them will take more time to do. That way we can provide updates regularly. Thank you.
Is there any plan to repeat the survey? I would think it'd be interesting to, over time, see how those priorities change.
I think that'll come as a part of this communications goal that we have, and I think it'll be one that we work in concert with corporation leadership on. But, that'll come up as Alan goes through that communication goal. But I do think, I mean, this is the part I thought was curious. I looked at it and said, well, it's only 200 and some odd 200 and some odd responses, and we have 2,500 roughly students. And so to me, that seemed like a very small number of respondents. And so I questioned if that was worthwhile, but apparently that's a good response. 10% is a good response. So I learned something from that. But I would like there to be more engagement so that we understand from more of our families. If we're going to do a survey, I'd like it to be a bigger engagement.
With repetition, people might be more aware of it and be more apt to respond.
Anybody else? Any other questions? There has been a request from the board to have some of the raw data, which I believe will have
redacted, some individuals who responded to the survey requested that their personal information remain confidential. So that Mrs. Roth has very kindly gone through and omitted that identifying information. And so raw data will be available to the board at a later date, so you can see some of the contents directly. Yeah. So we just prioritized getting the summary out to the board over the raw data. So that's, they're coming pretty on each other's heels. Any other questions before we go on to the next item? Anybody?
Very in general, I really appreciate it. And I also noticed that the community appreciate it a lot. And yeah, and people feel heard. And yeah, I think many people are looking forward to hearing the feedback from the district, right, regarding all those suggestions. Thank you so much.
Anything else? All right, we will move on to item number 5 and substitute teacher pay and Mrs. Cronk.
Yeah. So during the last 2 board meetings, we've addressed the pay for teachers and classified staff for the 22-23 school year. I would like to recommend tonight an increase in our substitute teacher pay beginning with days worked in January 2023 in order to stay competitive in our region. The daily substitute teacher rate will increase to $110 per day, which would put us towards the top in our region. To keep the same differential as we currently have, retiree substitutes will increase to $130 per day, and permanent substitutes with teaching licenses will increase to $145 per day. A permanent substitute without a teaching license will be paid $130 per day. Please approve this recommendation as submitted.
Okay, can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mr. Marley, second by Mrs. Austin. Was that you? Dr. Springer. Okay. Dr. Springer was the second on that. All right, questions for Mrs. Cronk about the substitute pay recommendation? I appreciate you giving it to us in this organized.
Welcome.
Spell it out. Understand the financial impact. Thank you for that. Anyone else?
The raise. Also, I heard from Sean regarding the hourly rate will be increased too. That's great. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Can I get a motion, please? Or can all those in favor of approving the substitute pay increase? Sorry. All those in favor, please indicate with a raise of hand. Okay, that motion carries 7-0, Mrs. Julian. We'll move on to item 6, the personnel report, and Dr. Greiner.
So you have the personnel report in your packet. It is my recommendation that the board accept the personnel report as presented.
Can I get a motion, please? Moved by Mr. Schott, second by Mrs. Austin. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the personnel report, please indicate with a raise of the hand. That motion carries 7-0, Mrs. Julian. We'll move on to item 7, accounts payable finance update, and Mrs. Cronk.
I do apologize if this is a little bit longer than what you're used to. Did change things up a little bit. So claims for the period of November 10th to December 12th total $3,989,817.39, including regular corporation expenses and the Wabash Valley Education Center expenses. Of this amount, $2,579,409.85 were paid towards wages, salaries, and benefits. And then moving on to the preliminary fund report that you were provided in your packets for the month ending November 30th. The education fund has a balance of $1,633,451.96, and total funds on hand for the corporation are $17,220,653.33. Please note that the report is preliminary, as we have not yet closed the month at this time. I would also like to point out that several funds on that fund report may run in the negative during the month, as they are reimbursable funds. This means that we must expend money in these funds before we can claim reimbursement. And just a little update on what's going on in the business office. This month and the month of January are busy months. We're getting ready to pay the teacher appreciation grant stipend on the last pay of this month, and then have an extremely quick turnaround for the first pay in January on the 5th due to the holidays. We will be working on year-end processes as well during this time, rolling over the new budget for 2023, beginning the work on W-2s and 1099s, and completely overhauling the pay and benefit account codes due to required change at the state level. So please approve the accounts payable and finance update as submitted.
What are you going to do the second?
Do it. I don't really celebrate Christmas that much. Yeah. Christmas, yeah, Christmas in July.
I'll pitch in a piece of cake.
Very good. Can we get a motion? Moved by Mrs. Austin, second by Mr. Carpick. Any questions? Thank you, Mrs. Cronk, for that. We love the additional detail. I'm very grateful for that. Thank you. Any other questions regarding the accounts payable this month?
Or the explanation file. That's very helpful. Thanks.
Yes, do you want, Mrs. Cronk, just for the benefit of those listening, can you explain what you've added that'll appear every month that are just resource information?
Okay.
that help
So
people?
we're running the actual claims docket from our accounting system, which is a little bit different than what we've done before. But I'm breaking down that claims docket by object code. So object code is types of expenses that we have in school finance. So what the 100 objects are salaries and wages, the 200 objects are benefits, so on and so forth. I've broken that down by object code to arrive at our total expenses for that time period. And then I've added a preliminary fund report, which shows the balances in each of our funds at the corporation level with the total funds on hand for the district. And then I've also given a breakdown of what the different fund numbers mean. So if depending upon what number they are signifies what type of funds they are. And there's an explanation of all of those in that packet as well.
And that'll be released with the payables every time when it's out there, so people have a little cheat sheet, so to speak,
Yes.
to understand it all.
Yep.
Okay. All those, any other questions for Mrs. Cronk? Okay, all those in favor of approving the accounts payable and finance update this evening, please indicate with a raise of hands. That motion carries 7-0, Mrs. Julian. All right, information to the board. Dr. Reiner, would you like to go first?
I would love to go first.
All right,
Thank you.
great.
Earlier this month, the superintendents gathered in Indianapolis, you may recall, for the annual Association of Public School Superintendents. We call it the annual meeting. One of the things we discussed were the legislative priorities during the session. I just wanted to let you know that we will continue to advocate for how the legislator decisions impact our districts and our students. And as those priorities continue to develop and evolve, which I've begun to share with you, I will keep you apprised of that information, as I know Mrs. Austin will do the same as our board advocate. This Friday, December graduates from Purdue's teacher education program will have the opportunity to participate in a pinning ceremony as they graduate as teachers. We're grateful for our partnership with Purdue and the Teacher Education Council, and you may be aware that I serve on that council. Now they moved that from superintendent to superintendent in the county, and I was given the honor to be a part of that this year. And so I've been invited to be a part of that. I've also asked Mrs. Roth to attend, and we will certainly celebrate with these young new teachers. You know that we invite our aspiring teachers into the classrooms for practicums, as well as to do student teaching opportunities. And from there, we're able to kind of eye the best of the best and start to get them thinking about why not West Side. So we are very excited to attend that pinning, and we'll certainly be keeping our eye out for the best of the best during that time. Also, we met today with both Mrs. Mumford and Mr. Wong, and we're very excited about the day and time that they spent with us today. Thank you. It was a long several hours, I'm sure, for them, but I appreciate their time today as they continue to begin the onboarding process to ensure a smooth transition onto the board in January, and we thank you for your time already. Finally, I want to thank Mr. Carpick and Dr. Springer one more time here publicly. We've done that a couple of times, but these two individuals were so supportive to me throughout the onboarding process. The day that Mrs. Greiner and I left, right about this time in December, or in about 3 days, they called the very next day, and they started setting up Zoom meetings and helping us to begin the process as I began to think about very soon transitioning from a district I'd been at for a while that actually graduated 2 of my children. So that was an emotional adventure, but an exciting one. Certainly today we look back and are excited where we are. But your support throughout that process meant a lot to me, meant a lot to my wife, and even the children you you guys reached out to them as well. So I thank you for that. And I can tell you that the Griner family is feel very blessed to be where we are today. That being said, uprooting, that's hard on the kids, and to watch your kids go through that. And so I thank you too for the support throughout that process. It's been an honor serving with you this past year too.
So as Dr. Reiner indicated, we did meet today for our first onboarding session. Spent a couple hours going through the board binder. That information has been put together as part of board goal, I don't know, was it board goal number 3? And so Dr. Springer and Mrs. Austin worked through compiling that based on another school corporation's presentation. And so we had some nice framework to work from. And I will serve as Mrs. Mumford and Mr. Wong's veteran member mentor for this next year. And so the three of us met today for the first time along with central office staff. We were all provided a paper copy of that, so we have the opportunity to take notes and that type of thing. But if you would like, it's also in box. You all have it in box now available to you electronically, as will our new members. But if you would like a paper copy, please let Mrs. Julian know. I know she will delight in some time with the copy machine that she so gracefully gives us. But if you, it's up to you if you want that or not, but it's available if you'd like to request it. And also an update on the other board goals. Mr. Marley and I and Dr. Reiner and other central office staff have been working through considering what the committee assignments look like. And just to give you a brief update on that, we're really looking at sorting them into engagement areas so that each board member would have kind of a focus and be able to kind of contribute in a really productive way early. And so that information, Mr. Marley and I are still going to hash out a little bit more work, which might be news to him, but we're going to work on that a little bit more. And then we'll release that out to the board for some conversation to decide how you feel about it and those types of things. After we get through our organizational meeting, we'll be working on obviously committee assignments for next year. And whoever the board chair is for next year will need to make those assignments fairly quickly. And then Mr. Carpig, if you could give an update, please, on your goal. I know you met on that this time as well.
Yin and Tom and I met. We met last week. And some of this is going to be for future, certainly on the communication issue. But the goal too is to evaluate and make any necessary updates to our policy and practice. And I think I shared this with everybody this morning. For communications from the board to ensure it is legal, reliable, and appropriately transparent, and really through Dr. Springer's help, at least identifying some of our policies that pertain specifically to that. Policies 123, 143, 143.1, 177.1, 3112, and 4112. All those, we addressed each of those. And as a general overview, I mean, we talked about things, like, for example, that the board chair, it isn't a policy that the board chair is the person that should be speaking for the board in most cases. And I think that that's something that is something that moving forward is an important thing to remember. It doesn't mean that that's always the case, and there's in our board policies it states that as well. Communication between the board and the superintendent obviously is important. In terms of discussion being ensued about releasing the packet before the meeting, we talked about that and how and what that is. We're not in agreement necessarily on that. Maybe something that the board will have to discuss as moving forward and some legal ramifications with that. Privileged and confidential information also as well. The need for the entire was a topic as well. And just the general need to, I mean, there was probably 5 items that we did recognize specifically that as a recommendation from our group, the recognition of the improvements already made. I think the board chair notes certainly step in the right direction. Twitter and Facebook accounts and the fact that's coming from the district. We talked about the Red Devil Pen and also the West Lafayette Schools Education Foundation, the newsletter, those kind of things go out. Not just on social media, which is important certainly, but also our ability to, you're going to remember one thing, it's a fundamental tenet. 70% of our district does not have kids in the school. And we must, in my opinion, this is one person's opinion, but it's important that we continue to prove our, for lack of a better term, prove our worth to our district with respect to what we're doing. And 70% of our stakeholders are not engaged as much as those that have kids in school. And that really becomes important. We talked about that as a group when it comes down to referendum time, which will be a necessity, barring manna from heaven, will be a necessity in 2024. So we talked about the need for that. We talked also about considering, and again, certainly is going to have to take funding to do something like this, considering creating a communications director position and or stipend for an organization to better provide information on programs. And there was some concern among our group about certain, whether it be athletics or whatever, may get more publicity or self-publicity, maybe partially because they have events that maybe more people attend. But it's important that we're able to celebrate all of our achievements throughout the district through all the different ways that our children can participate in events or clubs or academic opportunities, et cetera. And I think that's something that I think will warrant the next board to think about is the need for that in today's world. And Anna, you've done a great job already of I think really helping move that forward. But how do we best continue in this need for communication and transparency and all those items that are important? How do we best move that forward? And I think that's a decision the next board's going to have to look at. It's been talked about before. I mean, it's not like it's a new concept. And there are a lot of other districts that have communications directors. Whether that's something, there's a creative way to go about doing that. We talked about that as well, because we mentioned too, we understand funding is an issue, and so we have to be able to move forward in a positive direction there. Another comment was the need for improved visual aids at school board meetings. I think some of the things we're doing are helping, but just making it as easy for people that are at the meetings to be able to know what's going on. I think that's also is an area that is an overriding comment from us. The survey thing, which we really didn't address, I do think that, again, speaking for myself here, but it does make sense to we now have a baseline, right? So it makes some sense to continue to see if we can measure improvement over time, and determine some ability, at least from one data point, to be able to do that. So I do think that, again, speaking for myself, makes some sense. So, Tom, are you anything else from your perspective? Anything else to add?
We talked about looking at the website and deciding if that at some point needs
that was the first thing we talked about. I'm sorry. Yes. I think the general feeling on the website is the website's 10 to 11 years old. It is in need of a redo. I apologize. That was actually the thing we spent as much time.
It is difficult to navigate. It is.
Correct. And that is absolutely correct. That was the first thing main thing we talked about, the need to improve that.
Anything else, Dr. Yin? Did you have anything to add?
I think that Alan summarized it very well. And thanks. And in addition, I'd just like to thank Sean and Anna for doing a lot of communication, so much more than before. And on top of your busy schedule. And really, really appreciate the Twitter, the Facebook, and the Red Devil Pen. And that people feel so much more informed, and really appreciate that. And it's all on top of your busy schedule. And so just one thing to add, and so I feel we need actually Sean and I went to one of the sessions about communication at the SBA conference, right? So they talk about so many ways and the connection with the local media and so on. So I feel we need to kind of sit down together to figure out a systematic plan. So also share some of your workload with more people, and so we have some sort of network for those communications, so we can do it more efficiently and thoroughly. People won't feel left, some of them. And so now it's kind of depends on some of the activity groups might be more active, others may not share what they have done.
then we won't know, right? So we somehow need to have a system to do it more thoroughly.
Also, we do have I'll tell you that anytime you're at an event, I would strongly recommend that you take a picture and send it, because that's kind of that's an easy way to bring forward events. So when I've gone to different things and taken a photo and sent those on, they're then easily tweetable. So
Right.
you already can do something right now, basically, if you want to. No, that's always, Dr. Renner's always been very open to that. He loves tweeting things at 2 a.m.
The thing is, who should people send the information to? And, you know, principal or
Right. It depends.
to
I would say
superintendent directly. I don't want
of
Michelle to be
board-
overwhelmed.
of school
With
board
good news.
members, right? Of school board members, you can send it. We wouldn't want everyone in the community to send that to Dr. Greiner, but if school board members are at various things, that would be very welcome, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I hear you saying that
Right.
developing systems could be a part of the communication.
Yeah, I think
Yes,
that-
Please do send anything.
I think there is a need for process. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to, because we do want all of our activities to be celebrated and get to everyone to have that opportunity. And yet it's impossible to know what equality absolutely looks like, but if there's a process in place, I think that helps a great deal. So I think that was probably important. That and the website, I do think that that's an important thing that we need to, you know, just come up with it. And again, and one of the things we did talk about, which is important and extremely important from a board perspective, because finances are what we do, and that is the need to, you know, money, it takes money to do these things. And communications directors, website redos are expensive propositions. So we need to, you know, you need to think about strategic ways to do that. And there's probably a 4.0 version that we could explore.
So there's a possibility of partnering with the foundation on some of the stuff.
Yes.
See what we can do. Also, just on a related note to this, a question about the board packets. As you know, it's something we've, you know, had conversation about. We've done a few things. We've been trying to gather information to aid a board discussion about it. So I've gone to the ISBA, Lisa Tanzel, and I've asked for recommendations. I've gone to our legal counsel, Church Hiddle, and asked for the laws to be specifically provided. I've asked Dr. Greiner to go, and he's gone to superintendents in Area 4 and asked for feedback about what they do. And so we're building that information. It's not going to be an immediate, it's not like a switch that you flip. It is, what are we going to release and when are we going to release it and what is the purpose and value of releasing it and how are we going to do that with the agenda versus after the meeting. So the intention is, as I've explained to you in my weekly notes, to get all of the information together in which we can have a constructive conversation as a board and make a decision about how it's best to proceed. So that's where we are in the process. And like I said, that's just going to take a little bit of time, but we're working through it and we'll have information. So what I want to do in that particular conversation is take the focus off of how any individual one of us might feel about it and move on to these are the facts of the situation and what we can benefit and what the risks are. So, because it's a both and, so we can go have an educated conversation about that, hopefully early in the first quarter anyway of 2023. Okay, so now we need committee reports. How about if you go first, Mr. Barley?
Not much to report at all. Last current EC meeting is going to be December 21st at 8:30 at City Hall.
Wonderful. Mr. Schott?
Foundation met last Thursday, December 8th. Hopefully you all received either directly or through Rachel's weekly report, the annual report for the foundation. Thought Wendy did a great job putting that together. Giving Tuesday was a huge success, increase in both donors and gifts. Folks were very pleased with that. Teacher grants have been awarded for the fall semester, and once again, they will do a second round of those in the spring. They reviewed some bylaws, including the one that we approved in our meeting in November, and then just The broken record portion of the report, Wall of Pride set for April 13 and 14, Scarlet and Gray, dinner April 22nd. So those plans are continuing to move along.
Mrs. Austin?
At the Community Council, we decided to create a shared Google Drive and calendar to keep track of community events in one place, which I think will help with what you were talking about with the communication piece of everything. And we established the goals and structure of our meetings and had a nice conversation. And with the legislative liaison position, I'm already hearing rumors that it's going to be a whopper of a year in 2023. So that'll be exciting. You'll be hearing a lot from me. Good stuff.
When does that session start, Amy?
January.
Okay.
That's when they start.
Thank you. Mr. Karpik, anything else from you?
And Tom did the foundation report. I think we do have tomorrow, we have the alumni group, which is going to be planning for the next class, the Wall of Pride. So that's that is in process, and discussions tomorrow also, correct? I don't know, do we have anything else to report from last, we did not have last month, right?
Yeah, I'll report on that.
You want to go right ahead?
Oh, okay. From the park board, the grand opening of the new Cumberland Dog Park was held on Thursday, December 8th. A lot of excited furry friends out there enjoying that grand opening. Work on the Cason Family Park is progressing, and the actual work should begin in the spring of 2023 with completion in spring of 2024. And the Riverside Skating Center is open not only for recreational skating plus, but skating lessons as well. Board teacher discussion for December will be tomorrow, but we did meet in November. Discussion about the teacher appreciation grant update, which at that time was just being presented to the school corporations, and as was presented tonight by Mrs. Cronk, will be in the December paychecks. Talked about subs and teacher coverage, benefits scheduling, purchasing process changes, parent background check and Skyward, and parent-teacher conference expectations and suggestions.
Dr. Yin?
No additional report.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to communication from the audience. We do have two individuals who have signed up tonight. We will start with Randy Stute.
Good evening. I think I was designated, so that's actually a great privilege in this respect, because even though you've already had some commentary on this, I wanted to come on behalf of WLEA to talk to our two retiring members and to thank them with sincere and deep thanks on behalf of our teachers and our students and our community for your service and your commitment and your diligence. Some of you probably know this, but I've actually had Karen's daughter in class as well. I've been following her career throughout. And but the interest that both Alan and Karen have shown for all of our students and all of our teachers has been shown throughout all of these years. And I remember, Karen, I got hired in 2003. You might remember those years. That was a little bit eventful. But I knew that when I came back later on in leadership as co-president with Lisa Mills, that we worked on discussion. We had lots of productive work together and very collaborative relationship. And I consider that to be a very important word. I think it's important for us to be able to work together on both sides of a table, whether it be bargaining or whether it be discussion. You mentioned discussion a moment ago. You know, the state of Indiana in 2011 changed the law, saying the only thing that can really be done by a union is your bargaining in terms of your the benefits and pay. But everything else is discussable. And in a lot of corporations, that is a pain, as Dr. Groiner can probably tell you, that can be a very painful thing to sit in discussion and have discussion back and forth, depending on the attitudes and the responsibility and the concern that each side has for each other and relationships that are built over time. So I think it's important as we transition into a new stage in January that we continue to build those relationships. And I greatly appreciate what you both have been able to do. You've been very accessible, incredibly community involved, and pleasant and amiable. and I'm going to miss working with both of you, and I think our teachers are as well. Karen, I'm going to tell one quick story. You may remember a couple of years ago with a calendar situation. I don't know how many of you were on the board at the time, and I know the gentlemen were, where we had to come back sometime in the fall and say, we have to adjust the calendar because we made a mistake. And I think Rocky at the time, and Dr. Killian at the time said, yeah, that was the one meeting Karen wasn't at. And so she didn't count the number of days. And we all relied on Karen to do that. And so this is just one of those many things, one of those many small things. And I want to mention one other, and that's the policy review. We had a chance a few years ago to be brought in. When I say we, Lisa Mills and I, when you were going through the section on teachers, and I'm not sure which one that would be. You probably have the numbers memorized, but I don't have it. Hundreds of pages of policies. People in the community don't understand. A lot of it is state law and federal law, and you don't really have to change much of it. You have to do, but she had read every single word. And in addition to having a legal advice through Doug Masson, I would say, I can trust when Karen has read through something that we know what's going on. And the same thing for the years that you served as board president as well, greatly appreciate. Just wanted to be able to say that I'm sorry it comes at the end when we all like to walk out the door, but when these people are walking out the door, I know that they're not going to leave the community and they're not going to leave their interest in education. So I'm hoping that you'll walk around the other side and help us at the State House, because we're going to need that. As Dr. Greiner will probably be calling on you because you're no longer on the board. You have maybe an opportunity to help us out there. So thank you very much for all your years of service.
On, and I'm very sorry, I may mispronounce, so I'll ask you to correct it, but Pushpa Tapo? Yes. Okay, please come forward.
Hello, everybody. And my name is Pushpa Topo, and I'm representing here a foundation. Foundation name is Ankit Foundation Corporation, and this foundation is recently started to address the mental health. And we all know what mental health meant for not only in our community but whole country, or I should say whole world, how we are going through all the mental crisis. And this recent pandemic did not help in isolation and all those things. So talking about the mental health in our community, of course, that addresses a big portion of the community, like our new generation, our students. And our students get support, combination of the home, community, and the school. And most of the time we expect that they should get support from the parents for relative or community, but the fact is that students spend majority of their time in the school. And we all know that not every child is fortunate, blessed with the good parenting and the good family. Lots of students come from the broken families, and for them, school and community becomes their major support. So, of course, we have to, as a school, we address the academic, but as we saw the survey, that child whole becomes the second priority after academic. It's about 81% more. So for those children, and actually for everybody, including staff and teacher and everybody, mental health is very important. And what we do in the school, what we do in the community, what we do as to support a child is students determine which side their life going to go, positive, negatives, and this new generation is the generation for our future. They will become president, vice president, doctors, engineer, and all that thing. And we are lucky and we are fortunate in the school, every one of us, that we become a part of that. And to address that mental health, if we catch in the beginning, before it overtake their whole life, can play a very important role. And those can be like a very small tools we can implement in the school system, like early diagnosis, early detection. If we see a child a little bit depressed or something, is there any system? Do we do any screening for the depression? Just, I know we do screening for all other areas, say like the drug screening, anonymous, stuff like that. But can we implement some other tools like depression screen or their emotional well-being or some sort of any kind of putting in some curriculum like that address their emotional well-being, emotional health, bringing the resilience, coping skills, those kind of things. And it doesn't have to take the whole lot of like the time. It can be just like a minute or two, or however, it depends on the school board and, everybody as a team, we have to come up, what are the easy and simple things we can implement? I know there are lots of states and even some other countries, UK has adopted in lots of school, like some, they call it like meditation or some breathing exercises, just like 2 minutes of deep breathing exercise, 5 deep breath. Even like if we experiment ourselves, like when we are angry or depressed or anything or anxious about anything, if we take just a few deep breaths just before our presentation, how much we feel relaxed. It's changed the whole thing. Talking about the students, we don't know where they are coming from their home, from their society, what state of mind they are. And if we start with those kind of things, it can remove the anxiety. And not only for the students, actually, I have talked to so many teachers. Teachers are so much under, not pressure, I should say, but stress, because they have to deal with all those children, and children, it's a lot of responsibility on teachers' head. So with those kind of some deep breathing exercises can bring the atmosphere of like calmness collectively, and students can focus more, teachers can focus more, remove the anxiety. And if they do the repetition in each class, I believe that it can change a lot. And again, like small steps, what we can do for the stress management, what can we do, like if there's anything we can give them skills for their daytime management, we don't know what's going on in their family, in their personal life. So this foundation is meant not only for the school, for the whole community, but reaching to the school is part of it. But we are also reaching out to the doctor's office and to other navigation of the treatment for the mental health. What are those? Another advocacy will be like subacute facilities open for the mental health. But this part is like for the school, I would like to request, like, let's put a little bit attention to mental health, because if they are sound in their mental health, they can put more in academically. And we all know if somebody is depressed, performing well, one thing, they may not be able to attend the school as it is. So that's, I just want to bring little attention towards the mental health, how important it is, not for children, but the teacher and parents and everything. So there is a lot to do regarding mental health, but it's always a good start. To any small steps can lead to the betterment of the students and teacher and the whole community. And thank you very much for letting me share.
Okay, thank you. So future meetings, Monday, January the 9th, 6:30. We here in this building, please know that our new members and I will be sworn in again, or I'll be sworn in again. Our new members will be sworn in for the first time. We're going to do that right about 6:25, so right at the start of the meeting, and then we will seat them, seat Mrs. Mumford and Mr. Wong, and then we will move into the organizational meeting. In the past, we have worked under a nominating committee format for board officers. This year, we're just going to conduct that in the meeting. So I would recommend to all members, if you anticipate nominating someone for an officer's position, you should definitely speak with them about that first prior to the meeting. It'd be my advice, since we're not following the nominating committee format. Both formats are legal. We're just changing it up a little bit this year to allow the conversation to happen. Then we'll move on to, we have to conduct a certain set of business during that organizational meeting, and then we'll move on to the regular board meeting, and then finally the annual Board of Finance meeting that we're required to hold, and Mrs. Cronk will hold court over that one. And all of that happens on January 9th. Upcoming dates of interest: Christmas break, except we're going to call that winter break. That is a typo. Winter break begins Thursday, December the 22nd, and school resumes Thursday, January the 5th. And as a reminder, we do not have school for Dr. Martin Luther King Day on Monday, January the 16th. And as a reminder, all of these documents, audio and the live stream will be available immediately after the meeting, obviously, but audio will be available as well as the documents from this meeting within 7 to 10 days following. Oh, thank you. Please do. Dr. Springer and Mr. Karpik, if you would like to speak as well. I encourage you to do so.
Parting comments. No, I just want to say I'm grateful to the West Lafayette Community School Corporation stakeholders for allowing me to represent them on the school board for 24 years. I am proud of all we have accomplished for the students, the continued excellence, the new programs, personnel, building projects put in place. And let's not forget the 2 operating referendums that allow our school corporation to exist. I have been blessed to work with outstanding teachers, support staff, administrators, superintendents, board members, parents, and community members who care deeply and are fully committed to student success and for every student to reach their full potential. May this legacy continue into the future. I would also like to thank my husband, children, and friends for their support and encouragement over the years. RDP.
Mr. Karpik, final words?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you also. I'm grateful for the opportunity. 16 years of doing this. It's been a privilege for me. All the people, like I've said tonight, have gotten a lot more out of this than I put in. All the wonderful people, all the way going back to Aaron Floyd, to Dr. Killian, to Dr. Griner, but also my board colleagues. It's been a privilege to call you friends. I've learned a great deal. Dr. Springer here, they just don't get any better than what she's brought to our district over 24 years. And I've just been grateful for the opportunity. And the only thing I was going to say is it really comes down to 3 things, as I said in our little holiday gathering: service, teamwork, and leadership. I mean, I think everyone that comes to this needs to have that mentality that it's service first. This is something the board will go on long and will thrive long past where Dr. Springer and myself are here, because it's about the board. It's not about us. And I think that's an important thing to remember, is that you are all well-serving, well-meaning individuals, and that's important to keep that in mind. Teamwork and leadership, you need, which I think is inherent in all of you moving forward, is to find a way to work together, find a way to be empathetic towards one another, find a way to always is to keep the children in mind as we move forward, because that's what it's all about. And leadership, you all are leaders by definition, and our new members in the same way of people that have supported them to get to be elected. And it's important that you always know that leadership means also being a great team member and always serving. So it's been a privilege, and I've enjoyed it, and I'm thankful and grateful for all of my board colleagues that I've called friends over the years. So thanks so much.
And on that note, can I get a motion for adjournment? Moved by Mr. Karpik, second by Dr. Springer. Only appropriate. All those in favor, please indicate with a raised hand. That motion carries. Mrs. Julian, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.